All right, we are live. Good evening. This is
Oh
Attorney.
no.
This is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. And I think we're getting that reverb again, Darren.
Yep.
I'm,
Aaron
I'm
keeps have echoing issues.
I am joined by my co-host, Miss G, Miss Georgette Truin. Hello, Miss G. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I think you don't have your ring light on you today.
Um,
Yes. Your
I
lighting is
can.
a little different.
It is
Yeah.
because
And we have our other co-host, Mr. Darren Guai, who may be having some technical difficulties. Grace, I was hoping that you would have tested that before we started, but we didn't. And while Darren tries
Do we try
to,
this? Is that reverb still?
well, it's not
when we
reverb.
talk, yeah,
Excuse me, Miss G. It's not reverb for you, Darren. It's reverb for anybody else that's talking. Anyway, while Darren works that out, we'll go. The guest we had this evening is, you know, was not able to make it. She had an emergency at work, I think. So we are left to do some type of question and answer show.
Mhm.
Miss G, did you have any questions for me today?
I did actually. Um, that's what I was just saying before the show started. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's about the bonding study.
Hmm.
Uh, okay, so when the reunification services are terminated, is that the right time to ask for a bonding study?
Yes, that's the earliest time I would ask for it.
Okay. Wow, I didn't know I was right on that one. Okay. Okay. And so when you ask the court, obviously for the bonding study, um, the attorney will have to address that to the court, or is there a motion that has to be filed to address that to the court?
It could be done either way.
So he or she the attorneys can address it inside the courtroom that day.
Yeah, they can. I've seen attorneys ask for it right after they file, right after the court says, I'm terminating reunification services and setting the 366.26 selection and implementation hearing. And, a lot of sharp attorneys ask for the bonding study right then and there.
Okay. Now, from your experience, the bonding study, when they do ask for that right there and then, from your experience, do judges usually go along with it, or
You
they
know,
deny?
it's about a 50-50 shot. Doing an oral motion for a bonding study, depending on the judge, the judicial officer, you might be you might have a better chance of making a written motion. But I see a lot of people make oral motions, and I would guess that it's about 60-40, 60% granting the bonding study, maybe even a little higher.
So, would you say 75%?
No,
Okay.
I just gave you the numbers. You want
I
me
mean,
to?
I was hoping it's a little higher than 65, Vincent.
You hope that it was 100%. But when you make a motion, you have to have facts and law to support it. And so it depends on the person making the motion. If you just say, "Hey judge, I want a bonding study," there's no law cited, there's no facts to support it, right? You're just making that motion hoping the judge knows what you're talking about. And, although the judge may or may not know, you're leaving it up to chance. There's nothing on the record to support the judge granting that motion. So you want to make sure that you have the right facts and the right law to support your request for a bonding study. Also,
Okay.
if you make it early, the good
Uh-huh.
thing is that you can file a writ uh, type of an appeal to the higher court to get the court to order the bonding study before the selection and implementation hearing, the 2-6 hearing, takes place. So if you wait to a month before or 3 weeks before the actual termination hearing, and the judge tells you no, we're not going to do that, um, you may not have enough time to take a writ or to appeal it.
Okay. Now, now this is regarding the federal government challenges drug testing. We mentioned that before to me, and you said the state must comply. That's for the Kelly Fry test. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but I mean, is that a question or what?
Yeah, you said that the federal government challenges drug testing and the state must comply. So
Challenges drug testing?
yeah, that's what I understood from you. So maybe I misunderstood. So what did you mean when you said that that the state must comply with the Kelly Fry test, drug test?
Okay. I think you're confusing a couple different issues or laws, things that I said.
Mm-hmm.
When you take any type of scientific test and it's introduced into evidence, you can object to it on the basis of Kelly Fry. Kelly
Okay.
Fry are two cases that talk about what needs to be present in order for the drug test to be admissible. Now, I seem to recall some old, what should I say, case law in California that may relax that Kelly Fry requirement in that it shifts the burden to the parents to prove that the Kelly Fry test didn't apply. But in a lot of cases where I've objected to it, judges look at me like, I'm from Mars, or, they think about it and they think, yeah, you know what, inherently, we got to have some evidence of Kelly Fry. And then some, I think in one or two cases, judges up in Northern California have told me, well, if you don't think it meets Kelly Fry, it's the burden's on you to prove that.
Gotcha.
Okay. Was that your phone ringing, Miss G?
No, that
Oh.
was you.
I think
But we do
I,
have the same ringer, though. That's funny.
I think yeah, because it's an iPhone, right? I have an
Mm,
iPhone. You have an iPhone, right?
we have the same iPhone, iPhone
Mm.
13.
Now let me pronounce this name, Anahi. I wish I could be a guest on the show. There has been This has been a lifeline. Well, Anahi, I'm going to have Grace contact you right now, or you contact Grace at vincentwdavis.com, and uh, Grace will bring you on the show tonight because our guest tonight had a work emergency and can't be on. So we don't have a guest right now. We were just going to do some questions and answers. So, Anahi, if you want to be on the show, let's do it. While she's working on that, Miss G, did I answer your question about Kelly Fry?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Now, in your book, you mentioned the foster parents' rights, and a lot of people have been questioning that part. Like a lot of parents have been questioning that. I have three parents who wanted me to ask you on the show, why are you putting like a part, like part 14 on your book, chapter 14, foster parents' rights? They want to know why you're focused on that when you know that foster parents are not to be trusted.
Well, first of all, I don't ascribe to the belief that all foster parents aren't to be trusted. That's number one.
Mhm.
Number two, I wrote the book as general information regarding CPS proceedings and how to beat CPS. Now, you may not realize this, but sometimes foster parents are in a case fighting CPS and there's no parents involved.
Right.
Or the parents want the foster parent to keep the child. Okay. So that's why I put it in the book. Every scenario that you have when you represent someone in a case isn't always the same. Sometimes it's the parents versus CPS. Sometimes it's, one parent versus another parent and CPS. Sometimes it's the foster parent versus CPS. Sometimes it's the foster parent versus the parent and CPS. So, the matrix is very complex. I'm writing a book about information, okay? I'm not necessarily taking any side. My book is titled the way I titled it, How to Beat CPS,
And
okay?
when?
And when.
Okay.
So, people that battle CPS that I can represent are parents and or foster parents. And by the way, I think there's just one chapter in my book about that.
It is. It's actually a couple of pages, like
Yeah.
2 pages. Yeah.
Oh, I committed a mortal sin, I guess.
I know, but three people asked me to address this on the show today, and also about the other topic that I would like to discuss with you is about the appeal forms. Now, a lot of people have been calling me a few days before the appeal ends because they have up to in California they have up to 60 days from right from the
That
last hearing.
that's the no, well, wait a minute. This is important. It's 60 days to file a notice of appeal if the order or judgment you're appealing from is appealable.
So
Okay?
how do they know if it's appealable?
Got to ask the attorney. See, some orders and judgments aren't, well, not judgments, some orders aren't appealable. You have to file a writ, which is a special procedure and a special type of appeal. Okay?
Mhm.
So, you know, you got to figure out what you're appealing from and are you following the right rule. I'll give you a perfect example.
Mhm.
If your rights are terminated at a 12 or 6 month or even at the disposition, if they don't, not terminated, but if you don't offer family reunification services,
Mhm.
you have to file a writ. Now it's a special type of writ, but it's not quote unquote appealable. And if you file a notice of appeal when you should have filed a notice of intent to file a writ, you're going to be bounced out of court and you're going to lose. So
Okay.
you got to make sure you file the right type of document.
But they don't know what the right type of document is, and then their
Okay.
court-appointed attorney is not telling them that. So
Well, you
what?
know what? You know what? What can I do about that?
I understand that, but what?
Well, tell
What?
me. I told this to Darren and this to you the other day, the last week. I always tell you this, and it's heinous. It's unfair and unjust, but it is the way it is. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. So, if you want to make sure you do something the right way, talk to an attorney that's experienced.
Okay.
You know, I know most of the attorneys that I know that do this type of work give out, consultations, right? And you can just call up the attorney and ask to find out or double check.
Okay. What? 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 What can you tell people? Like, how can you prepare them for a trial? Because I know you have CDs in your office, DVDs actually, to prepare people for trials.
No, I don't.
I thought you did.
No. I
Oh,
have
you have cross. Okay, tell me what do you have.
I have DVDs on how to prepare a witness, including a parent, how to testify at the time of trial
Got it.
or how to testify at a deposition.
Ah.
Okay. Now, those can be used in any type of case. It's general.
Mm-hmm.
right? I can't cover every aspect of any and every type of case, even CPS case.
Mm,
I was looking at a website today. I had to fill out some information from a court up north about my experience, and it asked me to list where I had done training for CPS type cases.
mm,
A lot of counties have requirements that you have minimum competence standards to practice CPS in their county, and most all of them require you to have a certain amount of formal training and a certain amount of experience.
mhm,
Um, and I was looking at a website of where I had taken a course, and the website says now that they have a new course, and it's called De facto Parent Representation: an emerging specialty.
what the
Okay,
heck is that?
well, it's a very specialized niche in CPS practice.
What?
We have we haven't really talked about it because it just hasn't come up. But there's whole areas of laws that that we haven't discussed ever because they're not the usual type of thing. Generally, we get mom or dad who calls in and they're getting screwed over by the social worker, and it's the typical case. But we haven't talked to any de facto parents. We haven't talked to any children, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things going on in CPS cases, and you think you know everything, and you don't.
But I thought a de facto parent is
No, don't tell me what you think about it because you're going
okay.
to be
Never mind.
wrong. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Just
I mean,
never
what does
mind.
it matter? What does it matter what you think
Right.
about
I'm
de
sorry.
facto parent? You and I have never talked about it.
No, no.
You might as well tell me, hey, how do you do open heart surgery?
Do you know
Right.
that? That wouldn't
No,
surprise me.
but she'll like everyone else, she'll give me an opinion.
Hmm.
Hey Darren, you know what happens with a lot of people? And I did this. I'll tell you something crazy. This was when my wife was still living. I went to the doctor and my neck right here was swelling up. Okay. And I go to the doctor and he tells me, or she tells me, you got to have an operation. Got to have an operation. And I'm like, oh, okay. Now, the type of operation it was called a thyroidectomy. Have you ever even heard of the thyroid?
I've heard of the thyroid noectomy part.
Yeah.
Okay. So the thyroid is like such an important gland.
Hmm.
It takes care of the regulation of your body temperature. Can
Wow.
you imagine? Can you imagine?
So you were sweating a lot.
No, I wasn't. It was just getting swollen.
Oh, okay.
And the doctor tells me you got to take it out. Take out the whole thyroid. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
whatever you say, doc. And I even scheduled the operation. Okay. This is years ago. My wife says to me one day closer to the operation, she says, you're a pretty smart guy, but you're not doing the smart thing on this thyroid operation. I said, why? She says, do you even know what are the dangers of having a thyroid operation are? And I thought about it. I said, no, I don't know. Thinking my doctor would tell me if I
Right.
needed to know anything. Well, apparently your thyroid is connected to your parathyroid glands, something very important, which are also connected to your vocal cords.
Oh, okay.
One slip of the knife,
No more talk.
no more talk. And for a lawyer
Yeah,
who does
no more
trial work,
drop.
I can't, that's would be devastating,
Hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
I've never seen, and there might be the case, but I've just never seen it. I've never seen a deaf lawyer. Never. I've seen lawyers with other handicaps, but if you can't talk, I don't think technology has caught up with you being
Right.
able to practice law. So after she told me this, I started to try to do some research on my own, and I was Googling it. Google knows all, right?
Right. It affects me
So my
everything.
so
Yeah.
my wife says, "Wait a minute, you're not being smart about this." And I go, "Why not?" She goes, "Why don't you go and get a second opinion?" Like,
Right.
what? Really? I can't Google this and figure it out?
This will tell me everything I need right here.
Right. Everything I need to know.
Hmm.
I go, and by the way, my research showed that I should have the operation.
Right.
Okay. I go to a second opinion. I find a guy in Pasadena who is like the specialist on thyroids. And I go to him, and he tells me, after looking at my medical records, because I had them shipped over, he says, whoever told you you needed a thyroidectomy is a quack. And I said, well, my doctor told me this. He said, don't listen to that doctor. And I said, well, how can you say this and you haven't even examined me? He never even touched my neck. He never took any x-rays, and he never took any tests. There's a whole bunch of like blood tests and stuff that you can do, and fine needle biopsy. He says, you don't need it. I said, well, how do you know? He says, I know because I've been a doctor 30 years. This is my thing. This is my special. And he was very cavalier about it. I came home and I tell my wife, I said, look, the guy was an idiot. I'm still going to have the operation. Now, he's like all these board certifications, and I'm not going to listen to him.
Right.
I'm not going to listen to him. She convinces me to go to another specialist, another guy in Pasadena. Different building, though, not the same medical group. So I have my record shipped over there, and I go see him. He reviews everything, and he says, and he's a little bit more serious about it. He says, you either have something benign or you have cancer.
Oh, Jesus.
He says, I think it's benign. He says, but I don't know for sure. I said, well, how are you going to know? He says, I'm going to send you to another doctor who I work with who does something called fine needle biopsy. This is where they stick a long, fine needle into your neck, rub it around, try to get some tissue from the tumor or the growth that's in there, and examine it. So I go there. The guy does an ultrasound. Now, this is the first time anybody has ever done an ultrasound on my thyroid. And I've been to two doctors. One who told me I needed an operation. So, by the way, when you take out your thyroid, you have to take this huge pill every day that supplements, the hormones and whatever it is that the thyroid does to replace, you losing your thyroid. It's a huge pill. When I saw it, I thought, I can't even swallow that. I have to do that every day. Anyway, so I go to the third doctor. He sends me to kind of a lab with a doctor, and it's packed. It's packed with women. I don't know if you know this, but it's mostly women who have thyroid problems. Men have it too, but it's rare. Anyway, the guy does the ultrasound. He does the fine needle biopsy. He says, look, Davis, I'm sending this out. He says, but in my experience, I'm going to tell you, you don't have cancer. You need your thyroid. There's a couple growths, and you need them. I forgot the name he said, but basically all the liquid is sucked out of it.
You need to be lanced.
No, it wasn't lanced. They stick a needle in there into the tissue, and they suck out the juice,
Whatever
so
it
to
is.
speak.
Yeah.
So he gets the results back, and he goes, yeah, you don't need a thyroidectomy. Whoever told you that gave you the wrong information. Now think about this. A doctor, like a 20-year doctor in the field tells me that I need an operation. I do my own research, and I conclude
You need an
I
operation.
need an operation. I go to a second doctor who tells me you don't need the operation. I don't believe him and still going to get the operation.
Hmm.
My wife tells me, go get another opinion. I go. And since the guy ran labs and sent me to the other doctor, okay, I don't need the operation. That was probably, let's see, I'll be 65 this year. I was probably 35, late 30s. So almost 30 years ago. Do you know that since that day, I've never had a problem ever again with my thyroid? The reason why I'm telling you the story is a lot of people who are watching make decisions about their legal case, and they couldn't be more wrong. Couldn't be more wrong. I'm consulting on a case now in another state, and they're in the middle of trial. And I'm telling the attorney some of the things he should be doing in the case. Okay. Now, they're in the middle of this trial, and I just came in as a consultant. This guy is like a 20-year attorney, I think. Fairly competent, can do cases, but he's just not an expert in CPS cases. I'm telling him stuff he's never even heard of. So think about that. The next time you ask Jane Doe on the internet what you should do in your CPS case,
Right.
because I can bet you $1 if she says ABC, you probably should do XYZ.
Yeah. Facts.
That's why, and I know Miss G says this all the time, you got to talk to an expert, somebody that's competent in the field.
Right. But even still, you did that, and you look at what happened.
Right, exactly.
So it's
Now
asking
here I am playing with my own life.
Right.
Not everybody that say they know about CPS actually do know about CPS. I mean,
But believe
just
me, I
like
know that.
doctors. I mean,
Believe me, I know that. But you would think, and this is what I thought. This is what I thought. It's my body. I'm a smart guy. Google's there. I can figure it out.
Right.
That's actually what I thought.
Right.
How many of us make decisions like that every day?
Yep.
Every day. And then when things don't turn out right, what do? We blame the doctor. No, we blame the lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the lawyer's fault.
Yep. Well, it's always someone else's fault. It's never your own.
So if you're going to get advice, like Miss G, I just told you for these people, they should contact a competent attorney.
Mhm.
I appeared in a case in a county in California today. It's probably about 4 hours from Los Angeles. And one of the things that I had to fill out was my requirements about my education and about my experience. Because California, and I think juvenile dependency CPS cases may be the only area of law where they do this to a licensed attorney, is that they check you out before you can even come in their court. I've been in cases or been in courtrooms where a judge has asked someone, like, what's your qualifications under the California rules of court? And of course, the lawyer who's not experienced says, like, what are you talking about? They don't even know the rules exist.
Right. Wow.
So, just because you have a license doesn't mean, you can practice brain surgery or practice CPS cases.
there's Jen Absolute said, how often have you interviewed previous children that are now adults across the US?
I've done a few. And their experiences are varied. A few years ago, I tried to start a show on this platform that was a 12-year-old child was the host. And the child was interviewing or going to be interviewing other children who used to be in foster care. because, you know, you and I can talk about all we want about foster care, but we weren't there.
Mhm.
And it's interesting to hear the perspectives of foster children or former foster children.
When are you thinking about doing that show or what? I'm not
That
understanding.
show exists. It's just that we don't have a host anymore because I want it to be another child. And the parent of the child was all for it, but it's hard to get a child on a schedule, a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old on a schedule. They have other things in life that they're more interested in. But what I wanted to tell you is you'd be shocked and amazed about what happens with foster children because
Oh, I'm not amazed.
it's not all roses.
No, I spoke with a guy for about 3 hours this morning that he was on the run from 9 to 18, and he literally was on the run. He didn't like the families he was being put in, so he was constantly running away, trying to get back to his parents. And he got back when he was 18. He came back and went back with his parents. And he was crazy. He said that it was terrible. How they would be isolated, in the families. Like the first family he went to, he actually stabbed the kid in the neck because the kid would attack him at night while he was in the sleep, the older brother. So, and of course, anytime that he would do something wrong, whether it was him doing it by defense or him doing it by whatever, the real child is correct. And he said
Yeah.
that was the biggest thing that he ran into was the fact that he was never good enough as a real child in these families. So if he did anything wrong ever, it was, oh, those kids, see, we told you they were nothing but trouble, or, things like that. He was under this stipulation. But I
Mhm.
also talked to people that love their foster family and they're thankful that their
Right.
foster families were wonderful. And,
Right.
honestly, those are few and far between. It's definitely not a 50-50 split. And the people I talk to, I know that for a fact because more of them are horror stories than not. But then again, how much are really a horror? It's a horror to them because you got to think these little kids are just ripped away from their family, the things that they're comfortable with, jammed into a situation that they need to be forced to be comfortable with, and then excel forward in life. And that's not the way life works. Life works is you start from nothing and you get used to what you have. And then once you're comfortable with your surroundings, then you can, establish yourself, cocoon, and turn into a butterfly. Not like this. This is unnatural what they do, especially when they're ripping the kids just away from the families, and these studies are proving even if the kids are abused, chances are good that they're going to do better in that situation. That Baltimore test talks about that. Kids that are even abused minimally, not, getting broken legs and broken arms and, thrown downstairs, but kids that are getting spanked and slapped and things that CPS is saying is unacceptable, they would do better in their own environment than they would if they were being moved from that environment and put to something else. Because you figure these kids have to relearn life now. What age they are, they're experienced in life up until that point. Then they're just ripped away. They don't know what's going on. They don't understand. They don't have the brain mentality to understand what has happened. They don't realize that mom and dad was bad because they're accepting what mom and dad was because that was what mom and dad was to them. They didn't know any different. And then you have them ripped apart, thrown into another family. I don't remember if it's this show or if sometimes I get confused. If it was this show, right? That woman that said that her kid was been at the office for like 3 months or something like that. Like that's just what better way of life is that for a child?
Right. It's not. It's not.
Like what is this kid's stories? Like, oh, go to Camp Hope and and like this guy was telling me he was from Washington. Washington is terrible what they do to the children up there. That's a pedophile bungalow, if you will. And this guy said it. He said it's just absolutely asinine. So he goes out and he advocates and tries to fight for that stuff in Washington. But he said, they would kind of, they would stick together. If you were fortunate enough to get amongst a group of foster kids, they kind of could make their own little clique because, they were, but otherwise they were every man for themselves. And it's a tough life, man.
Hey, you guys, we got somebody from the audience on the show.
Yeah.
Is it Myrene?
I'm Anai. I was in the comments section.
Okay, Anai, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing okay. How are you all?
Good. So you're joining us with Miss G and Mr. Guai and myself. You were watching us, what, on YouTube?
Yes, I've been watching you on YouTube for, I think, 8 months since it all started for me. And I started going crazy on Google. that's how I found you.
Okay. So what questions can I answer for you?
So for me, it has been, well, I know the answer, but I definitely could use some guidance as to how to proceed with my case. DCFS got involved back, and I'm going to paraphrase, obviously, because I feel like all these stories are just so long and have so many details to them. But for me, they got involved in October of 2022, and it was because of allegations of domestic violence. I did call the police regarding domestic violence while my child was not in the home, and that started an investigation that only lasted about 4 months. So within those 4 months, they accused me of domestic violence, substance abuse, and mental health issues. They looked for her biological dad, whom she had no relationship with, and they granted him custody. So the case
Yep.
opened in October. By January, I had no contact at all
Yep.
with my child. He just blocked me off, uh, through texts, and phone calls weren't happening. Obviously, DCFS was no longer answering my calls, and I have tried to go back to. Actually, I've tried every courthouse in Los Angeles. There are a few, and I couldn't. The case wasn't coming up. He was listed as both the respondent and the petitioner for some reason. I wasn't listed just anywhere, and I'm still dealing with that now. I am left with supervised visits, which are just vaguely listed. It says that it's meant to be decided between the father and myself. We have shared legal custody, but again, I have no contact. They changed the school contacts, they changed her doctor, her dentist, and I don't know what to do. From this show, I learned just how many things can go wrong and how false allegations can be seen as true. That definitely happened with me. If you looked at the story that they listed, it's just crazy. But
Is that your first domestic violence, Anahi? Is that the first domestic violence report you placed?
no, I actually tried to get a domestic violence restraining order back in 2015, and that was against the biological father. So
Okay, so
this
the
one,
domestic violence that you made the report recently, who is it against?
that was against my ex-partner, who was my daughter's stepdad, and yes, it was the first one.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you some questions. Was there an open CPS case at one point in time?
Yes.
Ah,
And did you have a lawyer?
No.
Okay. Well, then you couldn't have had an open CPS case. Where were you? Are you in California?
Oh yes, I'm in Los Angeles, California. I had the lawyers that were appointed to me. I spoke to them the night before each hearing at about, it was after 10 p.m. I gave them, my efforts into the plan and everything that I had been doing, but our hearings were very, very short. They were less than 15 minutes long, and I didn't get to speak, nor did the father.
Well, is your case closed now?
Yes, it's closed as of January 31st.
Okay. So do you when it's closed, they issue what's called an exit order that's filed in the family law court. Do you have a copy of your exit order?
Yes.
Okay. Does it say that you have to do anything in order to get custody back or unmonitored visits or anything like that?
No.
Okay. And let me guess, you and the biological dad don't get along.
No, we had no relationship at all prior and have actually not spoken to each other since either.
Okay. So what is your ultimate goal? Do you want to get the kids back? Do you want to have better visitation, unmonitored visitation? What do you want?
Well, as many other parents, I've been humbled to the point where I just want to hear her voice again. I just want to speak to her. But obviously, I would like more visitation and to eventually be able to have her back home. I know that because she has been with him all this time, it's never going to be 100% with me again. And I would take anything at this point.
Okay, well, that last statement is not necessarily true, but we won't dwell on that for right now. Do you have a lawyer? Have you been to family law court to try to get your custody and/or visitation back?
I haven't been back to family court and I don't have a lawyer. I have just been to the self-help area, to the family law facilitator trying to get information. And my name was corrected. This was just last week for me to actually be listed in the case. That took quite some time.
While you were coming on the show, I was telling a story about a medical issue that I had many, many years ago. Did you hear that story?
I didn't.
Okay. One of the things I want you to do after this show is over is I want you to go back and listen to that story. Okay? Because I took it upon myself with some doctor help to make a decision about a serious operation that I was going to have because I Googled it and did the research myself. And I felt that I was competent to do that. I wasn't. So, what I'm going to recommend to you is that you talk to a lawyer, a family law lawyer, even if it's just a consultation, to figure out what you need to do. Okay? Listen, unfortunately, you're in a battle. You're in a war.
Mhm.
And you got to strategize. Nobody is going to just come up and say to you, hey, Mimi, we're giving you the kid back. See you later. We made a mistake. That's not going to happen.
Unfortunately.
Okay? What you need to do is you need to go to family law court and get your custody and your visitation back. Is there a way to do that? Absolutely. Absolutely. So the statement that you said that that's never going to happen for you, that's not true. Maybe you feel that way now, but it's not true. And there's something that you can do about it. You just need a plan, right? A strategy, and you need it implemented. Now, I'm looking at you now. You seem like you're a nice, normal person. And I'm thinking, how did she ever lose her kid? Right? Sometimes you get people on and you're listening to them, you're looking at them. You know that there's an issue there. Or you have a feeling that there's an issue there. Right? We're all human beings and we all make judgments about each other just from looking at you, just from listening to you, watching your mannerisms. And the feeling I'm getting is, okay, this lady is just another woman that got screwed in the system. And I talk to them all the time, every day, all kinds of parents, mothers, fathers. I got two on this show, Miss G and Mr. Guai.
Mm-hmm.
And you
I
know
used
what?
to be a preschool teacher, by the way. So I could take care of more than 20 kids, but I never would have imagined that a few years down the road I would be seen as unfit. Never
Right.
have I haven't even yelled at my kid, and I know that there are just so many stories, so many stories.
They see women as the perpetrators. No matter how angelic you are, no matter how good parent you are, they're not going to respect you because you're a woman. And I'm being honest. The reason they retaliated against Darren is because he chose to stay with his wife because they were trying to separate them. They wanted his wife to leave him. And his wife said, "No, I'm not going to leave my husband." And that's the only reason.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason. Otherwise, Darren would have had the child.
Yep.
Same thing with other fathers that Davis speaks with. They're still with the mom. But when the father is the abuser, he's not with his wife or the children's mom, he gets the child. Okay? And the mom is disregarded. And that's the God honest truth. All right?
Painful, but yes, that's what it's
The
been.
evil thing.
Yeah. This is not a battle. This is a demonic war. It's a demonic war. I kid you not. This is not normal. The mothers are retaliated against. That's not normal at all, especially good moms. You think, I mean, I'm sure you have no priors, right? I didn't have priors either. I don't have anything on my record. Thank God. I've never drank. I didn't even drink wine, right? I don't do anything illegal. My record is clean, but they go for the abuser all the time. It's the abuser that the child or the children should be with. So the point I'm trying to make is no matter what you are or who you are or your career is, what your career is, or even if you're working for the biggest CEO in California, even his letter to the court will not matter. You know what I mean? A CEO, the biggest known company, I can't say the name, in California, they didn't care what he had to say. Right? So even the doctors, like, nothing is wrong, you know.
Yeah, they don't do nothing. Nothing. Zero.
Nothing is wrong with this woman.
But we're gonna
But
take your
it
kid
doesn't
anyway.
matter. So you get frustrated. I'm frustrated until you lose your freaking mind, right?
Then see, you're crazy.
Then they say you're crazy.
Yep.
Now, I learned, my God, back in the day, I didn't even say the word shut up. In our culture,
You are doing better with the
shut
slang.
up is the worst thing you could say. One of the worst things you could say. And
You've gotten over that, huh?
I've gone over that. But honestly, after that, I started cussing. I started like getting angry. I was always laughing at life. I was always laughing at myself. Always, if I do something stupid, I would laugh at myself. Like, I never took it serious. And I just couldn't understand how the system can be so corrupt, because I had high hopes in America. I used to think America was the greatest country in the world.
It used to
And now I changed my whole thought process. Now I blame my late father and my late mother, God rest their souls. Like, I always ask, why did you bring us here? Why didn't we go to another country? Like, why did it have to be America? Because I have never seen trauma in my life until I had to experience that. So no matter what you do or say to them, and by the way, they will trick you. They will tell you you're a good mom. Nothing is wrong with you. Everything is going your way, blah, 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 blah. Because they don't want you to hire an attorney. They don't want you to hire an attorney. I spent so much on the wrong attorneys until I had nothing to spend. So what I'm trying to tell you, I dealt with a court-appointed attorney that was not, they're corrupt. They're so corrupt that they will push you, and they don't understand your upbringing. And I love the fact when they say that the father is right, the mother is crazy, but then the psychiatrist says the mother is not crazy, the father should be investigated, and they still stuck on the mom. You know what I mean? Stuck on the mom. Two psychiatrists, nothing is wrong with the mom. The father should be investigated. This is one-sided, but still stuck on the mom.
Yeah.
You get it? You understand me? So if you're the abuser, you would have your kids. You would have your children.
Yeah.
I kid you not. You think see, only people that went through it will understand what I'm talking about. Because the abuser gets the children.
The only
Bottom
reason
line.
my wife
And if
doesn't, the
you're
only reason,
Christian, you're doomed. You're crazy. If you're Christian, you're crazy. You're crazy. Am I right? Nahai, tell me.
that's facts. You're right, 100%.
Okay, great.
That's actually too true. It's even in the report,
Yep.
in their
And
reports that I
my
mentioned
report
being
too.
Christian.
I'm Christian. I'm
Wait,
Christian.
hold on a second, George. Ms. G. What did you say, Mimi? It's in the report. What?
Yes, they mentioned in the reports when they were interviewing the father that I am Christian and that I mentioned that to him. So they placed that into my mental health.
Yep. Same here.
Mm.
Same here.
Of course, that's
Same
no
thing.
business being in there whatsoever. That's not.
You're not supposed to be Christian. You're not supposed to teach the children about God. That's not how you should raise children. You should never take them to Sunday schools. I was a Sunday school teacher. All my freaking life, I was a Sunday school teacher.
I didn't know
And
that about you.
yeah, I was a Sunday school teacher. Very, my God. Like I said, I never even said the word shut up, Vincent. I was very, 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 very sweet. And they take advantage of the like good people. They take advantage. Take advantage. I've never done anything wrong to anyone. Never hurt a soul.
Hey,
Never. But
Mimi,
do you
let me
see
ask
what I
you this.
mean? Mm-hmm.
Mimi, because we're running out of time. Did you
Mm.
have questions that you wanted to ask me?
She's scared her.
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So when the case was closed and we got the final judgment, it does
Mhm.
state that I have supervised visitation. It states the reasons that I have supervised visitation, and then it's blank. So I have no reason as to why they gave me the supervised visitation, and I have no plan according to the order. So I mean, I have had consultations with lawyers who tell me what the next step would be. But will they be looking at the DCFS case when I try to reopen the case with family law? Should I take that into account, or is that shut and no
They
longer
will look at
relevant?
It is relevant, and they will probably look at it.
it.
Okay.
Yep. And depends
So,
on the judge too, Davis, right?
well, most judges will, but yeah, it always depends on the judge. But you should cover all your bases, right? Don't think they're not going to look at something, and then they look at it, and then your strategy crumbles apart. Be prepared for everything. From talking to you, there must be some negative stuff, true or untrue, in the DCFS court file. So if there is, you're going to have to come up with a strategy to rebut that, to explain that away, or to show the judge that you have corrected that problem. Okay? So I'll give you an example. Let's just say they say that you are a domestic violence perpetrator. Before you go to family law court, you want to be able to take some classes to tell the judge, well, that's what the judge over there in Monterey Park thought at the CPS court, but here I've done these, 26 classes on domestic violence, or I've done the 52-week program, or I'm in individual counseling for domestic violence or anger management. Because the way the family law code is written in California, as long as you have rehabilitated yourself, you're supposed to get your visitation back, no matter what's happened. No matter what's happened. I not recently, it's been a few months, several months. I represented someone in our office in a family law case. And they ended up with unmonitored weekend visits every weekend with the kids. Because no matter what happened or what the CPS court found, the family law code doesn't say hold it against them forever. Because people people change, children change, adults change. So that's what I want you to think about when you go back to court. But you're going to have to talk to someone. You're going to have to talk to someone, hopefully it's an attorney that has, a CPS little background and has a family law background to come up with a plan for you. Okay?
Okay, that was promising. Your answer was very thorough. I've been in individual counseling. I have a medication management. I took classes. I get in this mindset of guilt all the time. So to know that that I have been taking those steps and that it will matter, that helps.
Definitely matter. Definitely matter. Don't get yourself in a funk or depression about, woe is me, I'm never going to get my child back, because it's just not true. This is a little off topic, but several months ago, we had a woman from San Diego whose child had been taken from her. She lost her parental rights. The child was adopted out. 5 years goes by. She gets her child back and gets her rights reinstated. Now, you think your case is harder than that case? You have a
I've never
minor
heard of that
case.
before.
Yeah, right. So hadn't a lot of people. But I happen to know it's true because I knew I actually talked to the lady, and I knew the attorney who did the case for her. Now, I'm not saying that's the usual thing, right? The stars align the right way. But never give up. I forget what Winston Churchill said, never, never, never give up. And that's what I can leave you with, Mimi. Never give up.
Right. Amen to that.
Is there any way you could give me a call, maybe like later on tomorrow? Like tomorrow when you have a chance? I'm going to send you Davis's book. And also there's a family law book as well that I have for him. And maybe we can do that a little bit.
I really don't publicize this, and I don't know why, but I gave a bunch of books that I wrote to Georgette a few months ago, maybe, and she was like, "You wrote these books? Like you never mentioned it to me." I have the CPS book, but I wrote a book for mothers, how to win in family law court, get custody and visitation.
Yep.
So
and a book for fathers too.
Yeah,
I
so
guess
you
there's some good ones out there.
So take a look at that book. She'll give you both of them for free. She'll just email them to you.
I'll text it to you.
Thank you. I actually love reading. I don't mean to. I didn't know that. So that sounds great. Is it the number that's on the screen?
It's my number. My direct number is Davis takes it down because it blocks half of my face, but
she's hard to recognize from the nose up.
There it goes.
I told you she don't even look the same, does she?
Hey, Mimi, do you see that number 626-631-8901?
It's right under my nose, like where my chin is.
I see it.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt 2237, thank you very much. We love you too. Hey, Mimi, we've come to the end of the show. If you need to talk to me or talk to Georgette, please give us a call. That number Mr. Guai is pointing at, that's the toll-free office number you can call. But Miss G also put her personal office number up there where you can call or text her.
You can text me at that number too. If I don't answer, just text me. Let me know, your full name and you are on the show. Remind me. Put Mimi. Mimi was my mother's nickname, by the way. Just put, this is Mimi from the show, and I'll remember you.
Okay, Mimi, thank you for coming on.
Okay.
And sharing. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
She's so cute.
All right, folks, we've come to the end of the show.
Doll. She's literally a doll. I swear to God, I'm like,
I want to thank both of you for co-hosting tonight, and we'll be on tomorrow night, Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll see you both then. Good night, all.